It was a scorching hot Tuesday in Arlen, Texas. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a relentless glare over the small town. The streets shimmered with heat waves, and the air felt thick and heavy, almost like a blanket that you couldn't shake off, the kind of heat that makes you sweat just thinking about going outside. It was the sort of day where even the most mundane tasks seemed Herculean. The townsfolk moved sluggishly, seeking refuge in the shade or the cool interiors of their homes. But Hank Hill, assistant manager at Strickland Propane, wasn't one to shy away from hard work. Despite the oppressive heat, Hank was dedicated to his job and his customers. He believed in the power of propane and the comfort it brought to the people of Arlen. Hank, grunting as he lifts a propane tank. Another scorcher, Boomhauer. Hank wiped the sweat from his brow, his shirt already soaked through. He had been at it since dawn, ensuring that every propane tank was filled and every customer was satisfied. Boomhauer nods. Yep, hotter than a jalapeno eating contest in a sauna, man. Boomhauer's words, though humorous, rang true. The heat was almost unbearable, but it was just another day in Arlen. The two men shared a moment of camaraderie, knowing that they were in this together. As Hank continued his rounds, he couldn't help but notice the resilience of the people around him. Mrs. Johnson was out watering her garden, her face red from the heat but determined to keep her flowers alive. Mr. Garcia was fixing his car, his hands greasy and his shirt sticking to his back. Everyone had their own way of coping with the heat, and it was this spirit of perseverance that made Arlen special. Hank decided to take a short break and headed to the local diner. The cool air inside was a welcome relief, and he ordered a cold glass of iced tea. As he sipped his drink, he chatted with the waitress, who told him about the latest town gossip. It was a small town, and everyone knew everyone else's business, but that was part of its charm. Refreshed, Hank returned to Strickland Propane, ready to tackle the rest of the day. He helped a customer load a propane tank into their truck, offering a friendly smile and a few words of advice. It was these small interactions that made his job worthwhile. He wasn't just selling propane, he was helping his community. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over Arlen, Hank took a moment to reflect on the day. It had been tough, but it was days like these that made him appreciate the simple things in life. The laughter of friends, the satisfaction of a job well done, and the promise of a cooler evening ahead. Arlen might be a small town, but it was home, and that was enough for Hank Hill. Inside, Hank meticulously balanced the company books. Hank, muttering to himself. Now, let's see. Propane sales up 2%, grill brush sales down. Buck, slurring. Hill, get in here! Hank, startled. Mr. Strickland, sir. I wasn't expecting you in so early. Hank couldn't believe his ears. Fired after 20 years of dedicated service? As Hank walked out of Strickland Propane, a strange feeling washed over him. It wasn't sadness, no, it was something else. It was rage. Hank Hill was not a vengeful man, but Buck Strickland had pushed him too far. For years, Hank had been the most loyal employee at Strickland Propane, always going above and beyond to ensure the company's success. He had sacrificed weekends, holidays, and even family time to meet Buck's demands. But now, after all his dedication and hard work, Buck had the audacity to fire him without any justifiable reason. This injustice would not stand. Hank felt a burning sense of betrayal and anger that he had never experienced before. He knew he had to do something, not just for himself, but for all the other employees who had been mistreated by Buck over the years. It was time for Buck to face the consequences of his actions. Hank, muttering, "Fired, after all these years. How could he do this to me? After everything I've done for him and this company, it's not just unfair, it's downright cruel, but I won't let him get away with it. No, I have to find a way to make things right." Hank sat in his garage, surrounded by tools, muttering to himself. The garage had always been his sanctuary, a place where he could think and work through his problems. As he looked around at the familiar tools and equipment, he began to formulate a plan. He knew that he had the skills and the knowledge to take Buck down, but he needed to be smart about it. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. Ladybird, his dog, watched him with concern. She had been by his side through thick and thin, and she could sense that something was deeply troubling her owner. Hank reached down to pat her head, drawing comfort from her unwavering loyalty. "Don't worry, girl," he said softly. I'm going to fix this. I promise. Hank, a slow smile spreading across his face. That's it. The idea came to him like a bolt of lightning. He knew exactly what he needed to do. It was risky, but it was the only way to expose Buck for the fraud he was. Hank felt a surge of determination and excitement. For the first time since he had been fired, he felt hopeful. That's how I'll get him. Hank's plan was simple but effective. He would gather evidence of Buck's unethical practices and present it to the board of directors. He knew that Buck had been cutting corners and engaging in shady deals for years, and it was time for the truth to come out. Hank felt a sense of satisfaction as he imagined the look on Buck's face when he was finally held accountable for his actions. This was more than just payback. It was a chance to set things right and restore his own sense of dignity and justice. Section 6. Operation Strickland's Surprise. Hank had a plan so ingenious, so deviously simple, that it was pure Hank Hill. Under the cloak of darkness, Hank was on a mission to give Buck Strickland a taste of his own medicine. Section 7. The tables turn. The next morning, Buck Strickland stumbled into his office completely oblivious to the surprise that awaited him. Buck, screaming as he's drenched in BBQ sauce. What in tarnation? Section 8. Forgiveness? Maybe? News of Buck's saucy predicament spread through Arlen like wildfire. Everyone, even Hank, had to admit it was pretty funny. Buck, on the phone, voice muffled. Hill, I know it was you. Hank, feigning innocence. Now, why would you say that, Mr. Strickland? Section 9. A propane salesman's life. In the heart of Texas, where the summers are blistering and the people are as warm as the weather, lived a man named Hank Hill. Hank was no ordinary man. He was a propane salesman, a job he took immense pride in. Justice, sweet and tangy, had been served. Hank had always believed in doing the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. He stood up for what he believed in, and that often meant standing up for his beloved propane. Hank Hill may have lost his job, but he hadn't lost his dignity. He walked out of Strickland Propane with his head held high, knowing that he had done everything he could to uphold the values he cherished, or his knack for propane-powered problem-solving. Whether it was fixing a grill or ensuring that a family had enough propane to get through a cold winter night, Hank was always there, ready to lend a hand. And as the sun set on another scorching day in Arlen, Hank reflected on his journey. He thought about the people he had helped, the friends he had made, and the challenges he had overcome. One thing was clear: you don't mess with Hank Hill or his propane. He was a man of principle, a man who believed in the power of hard work and integrity. And in a world that was constantly changing, Hank Hill remained a steadfast beacon of reliability and strength. Hank's life was a testament to the idea that even in the face of adversity, one can find purpose and fulfillment. He found joy in the simple things, like a well-cooked steak on a propane grill or a friendly chat with a neighbor. His community respected him, not just for his expertise in propane, but for his unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Hank Hill was more than just a propane salesman. He was a pillar of his community, a man who embodied the spirit of Arlen. As Hank looked towards the future, he knew that there would be more challenges to face, more obstacles to overcome. But with his trusty propane by his side, he was ready for whatever came his way. Because in the end, it wasn't just about selling propane. It was about making a difference, one tank at a time.